Okay, is this the light switch? No, that's a bomb. Okay. Help with this. Okay, we're good. Oh, hi. The captain told me to go fetch supplies as we were just recovering after an attack from robots called constructs. But I found you, a camera to record a video essay with. You know, I came looking for a copper and I found shit. Ain't that just something? Roblox events, specifically tower defense events. You all love them, at least not the tedious Christmas 22 event. God, screw that! And the stupid strats! But not thinking about it, you usually treat them fondly, besides granting a law, I guess, but that doesn't really matter that much. But here's the thing, I like to ask you guys, what were the quality of those events? Pretty good, right? The reason for it was that they were pretty small and knew their place. Disposable little celebrations that were unique of the time period that will never get revisited with something such as like Tower Heroes. You know, God, I really should make a video on that game soon. But here's the important thing. They were small. But what if we take the idea and flip it on its head? Make it into a big whole thing. What do you get? A 6-month delay, that is. And it is still rushed. But one game. Oh ho ho, they did it! An incredible experience that will last in your head for a lifetime. That event was from a Roblox game called Tower Blitz. What is Tower Blitz, you may ask? Well, Tower Blitz, commonly shortened to TBZ, is a tower defense game on Roblox, sort of a similar style to TDS with the interface and stuff, that features 2 paths for upgrades, not like Bloons is. So every tower in this game, besides 2 exceptions, has 2 paths that each have 4 upgrades. You can get both path upgrades up until the 3rd upgrade on either path where it locks the other path for you, meaning you can only get up to the 2nd upgrade on the locked path. The first 2 path upgrades are really nothing special, just providing some boost to the towers. They usually have some sort of theme, such as Slinger having one path focusing on range and one with damage, another being Sharpshooter having one that focuses on general stats, and one where it focuses on its Moltavi that it can throw. The 3rd upgrade for each tower changes things drastically, usually reflecting the previous upgrades as well, such as with Elite's top path focusing on more DPS while bottom gives less DPS compared to the top, but in turn removes his reload mechanic and gets a cool ability at his 4th upgrade. Both of these paths are really interchangeable, and one can be better than the other just at different scenarios, you know? Besides crossbow, just spam top path now. Now let's go have a look at all these towers in this game. They're kind of a lot, so I'll just skim through them. I mean, it's still gonna take 5 minutes, but you know, 5 less minutes than before. Slinger is the starter tower that you can get when you join the game, acting as the scout of this game. And it's pretty bad, however, you can solo normal mode with it, so take that as you will. In other words, normal mode's basically the mode in this game. In other words, it's easy as f***. Crossbow is actually better than TDS Aster. Yeah, it's not even close. As I said before, spam 3x crossbow if you have it. It's so good, man. I swear to God, it's so good. If you play this game and you have crossbow, you know how good it is. Otherwise, it acts similar to the Archer Towers, but with a lesser pierce compared to the similar towers from other tower defense games. Gunslinger is pretty bad. However, he has an ability at not X4. The hell did I put that on my script for? But at 4x, where he spawns mercenaries for $200, which is pretty good when spammed. He acts like those shotgun type towers. Yeah, that's basically it. Freezer is, can you guess, ass. But not for the reasons you might expect. He isn't really bad per se, but most enemies in this game you really don't need the freeze for. So you're really only going to really use him for if you're doing like a challenge or if you're a noob. More on the challenge part later. However, some noteworthy things is that he has a slow, which can also target enemies that are freeze immune. So I mean, that's pretty cool. Makes him a bit better than the freezer towers from other tower defense games. The Demolitionist is like a combination of the Demoman and Rocketeer from TDS, where it does similar damage to the Demoman at first, but stats jump immensely once you get top half. Like Rocketeer, but you know, good! It also has a nuke ability, but it kinda sucks. It more or less gets outclassed by another ability, which I'll discuss later on. Tech Blade. Oh. Well, he was originally in April Fool's exclusive tower until I don't even want to discuss it. Tragic events. But nonetheless, he's a free tower that you get at level 10 and up. And it's actually not too bad for a mid game tower at least, since he has pretty shit stats at max. Also, this guy has one path only, so yeah, not really much to say about him. Now the sniper. God, he should not be this good. So he is kind of like the regular old sniper from any tower defense game, combined with the marksman from tower battles. He starts as an average sniper but has two great third upgrades, one where he has to scope into enemies and deals massive damage, and another where he's just marksman. The marksman upgrade is usually better as he has high DPS combined with the bugler, so yeah, just use bottom path most of the time. The sharpshooter. How do I explain him? Well, he's like the sniper but with less damage and range, but slightly cheaper. I personally like using sharpshooter a bit more than sniper, but they're really interchangeable unless range is needed. His bottom path gives him the Moltabi, and where his third and fourth paths on the bottom make him shoot fire, which does slight splash damage and burns enemies, which can be pretty good for crowd control. So the market is this game's farm. It acts pretty unique compared to the farms from other tower defense. Stop! So the market is this game's farm. It acts pretty unique compared to the farms from other tower defense games. Instead of giving money all at once at the start of a wave, it gives money throughout it. What I mean by this is that it periodically will give you money multiple times per wave. By the time the wave skip option appears, the money it will give will always stop. So the top path increases times you get money per wave, while the bottom increases the amount you get to cash out. So the last two top path upgrades increases both of the stats. But the bottom is pretty unique, where it becomes a bank. Instead of money being given directly to you, it gets deposited into the bank, giving it a slight interest as well. Slowly, your money will exponentially rise the longer the bank holds onto it, which is actually a really cool concept. Does it hold up in natural gameplay? Hell no! Just use top path. Vulcan is this game's minigunner. Its top path increases the fire rate and Winmax gives bullet piercing, while its bottom path increases damage and woo boy, that's just going minigunner's levels of DPS. From TDS, by the way. The downside is that it has pretty short range though, and also no flat detection, but we'll get to that later. The Electricizer is this game's railgunner. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'll just pronounce the Electricizer. It has an interesting mechanic where it shifts from close up to far away mode by kneeling. Oh, it's just visual difference. Okay, never mind then. So the top path focuses on the raw stats like increasing damage massively on the final two upgrades, while the bottom is more support oriented, like the TDS Electroshocker. I know that name sparks the fear into everyone, but I promise, in this case, it's good. He also has a limit of 8. Yeah, also no flight detection, that might be a problem later. Trapper is basically a gimmick tower, but the gimmick itself isn't really good. He places traps on the map and that's pretty much it. There's one map where the traps don't even collide with enemies. I mean, he's not all bad. He's pretty good for killing enemies that leak, which is basically his purpose, so he's fine I guess. Not really that practical though. The Bugler is this game's commander. He can buff the ranges and fire rates of towers, as well as having some other tricks up his sleeve, such as the call to arms reskin snare drums on his top path, and unit commander and direct power ability. The former making all towers attack a certain enemy the player wants, and the latter buffing one tower a whole lot. It's also important to know that you cannot really change snare jumps in this game, unless you sell it, but that's expensive to sell, so why would you? There's also other ways around that, such as not Recon, but another tower I'll explain soon. He also has a place limit of 3, but damn it, that ruins my perfect transition. Oh well. The Recon Base is a spawner unit, which has a placement limit of 3, which is good for all parts of the game, which can spawn a variety of units. You know, now that I think about it, that's a lot of witches in my script. Oh well. The default 0-0 level spawns an operative, a weak unit that spawns along the path and shoots at enemies, not unlike the Tower Battle's barracks. The top path focuses on spawning vehicles, namely the Goal Mark II, Missile Truck, and the Tank. The Goal and Goal Mark II are free, with the former being unlocked at 2x and the latter at 3x. Goals have 90 HP and Mark IIs have 110 HP with a minigun that does 1 damage. The Missile Trucks cost $900 to spawn. It has 250 HP with long-range missiles that it shoots to deal 25 damage per missile. There are 7 missiles, so it deals about 175 damage per burst, which is pretty decent, I would say, given that it also has splash damage. They also have flying detection. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting to talk about flying enemies, huh? Well, we'll get to there later. You get the tank at 4x, and it's a tank. It costs 2,000 to spawn, deals high DPS around 110, and has 2,800 HP, and as you can guess, it's pretty good. The bottom path mainly buffs the operatives, such as making them spawn 2 at a time. X3 spawns private squads, basically buffed operatives that spawn in pairs of 3. X4 spawns Fireteam Solum, which, you guessed it, spawns Spreader Privates. There's the Commander guy, which is the SMG guy, the Rocketeer, the Sniper, and the Minigunner. They deal about 70 DPS in total, the Commander and the Sniper having flight detection as well. Also, the Private and Fire Team also have increased HP, but no one really cares about it. This guy is pretty expensive to be able to buy in the shop, costing 8,000 coins and being locked behind a level 45 level requirement to be able to obtain it. Now, you may be asking, for all that grind, it kind of seems a bit underwhelming. And you're kind of correct, but this is not the full potential of the Recon Base. More on that later. The Elite is kind of just a better Vulcan. It deals much less DPS, but in trade can do 3 times damage to shields, as well as having flight detection. It also sports a bit more range. The Elite also has an overheat mechanic where he fires at bursts, but after a while he overheats, which makes him stop for a few seconds. You can get rid of either the burst or the overheat mechanic depending on the upgrade, however. He also has an ability which deals huge damage, roughly 24,000 to any enemy he hits, which is unlocked at the 4th bottom upgrade. He is also locked in a weird way from beating 4 advanced challenges that give tokens used to unlock skins. Those have you beating some random challenge from all sorts of things. The businessman is like the tweeter or the cowboy of this game. It gives money if you upgrade his top paths, deals fire damage as well as having some abilities. The money it gives varies based on the level which gives it to you at the beginning of waves, like traditional farms. His top path last 2 upgrades focuses on his DPS as well as giving the ability to reduce the abilities of other towers, up to 30%, 5% per businessman. His bottom path ability reduces enemies' health a little bit, and is really bad. He also has a placement level of 16, which may seem high, and it is, but if you use him and only him for money, you basically have to get 16 of him. Alright, we're on the last 2 towers I have to talk about. Hooray! These 2 towers were previously event towers, but I now have you unlock them via weird ways, in a similar way to Elite. So the mechanic is basically the tedious engineer, but, you know, not depressing. He does nothing at first, unless you count his 1 damage nail gun as something. But once you get his top path, he builds turrets of all sorts. I'm not gonna list them all, but you just know it's a lot. The top path is the DPS path, and the bottom path basically does nothing until the final 2 levels where he builds Teslas that do crowd control damage and stun enemies. Basically a better version of the bottom path electricizer. X4 also gets an ability, which is to summon a stun immune force field that protects towers from all kinds of stuns, along with buffing its Teslas. It's also highly recommended to not buy any of the top path upgrades if you're going to do Teslas because it will just build turrets, which are kind of useless, not gonna lie. You used to be able to attain the mechanic from the Tower Blitz events, aka the 2021 Halloween events, from being 3 ISC maps there. You now obtain it from beating 4 ISC maps, feature maps that rotate per day. All of them have some sort of theme of being dark and stuff, as well as taking place on some distant alien planets. The Light Beamer is the final tower. Oh my god, finally. He's basically the endgame version of a Vulcan. His first 2 upgrades on either path is basically useless. It basically acts as a heavier version of the crossbow. Buying the top path makes him into a crowd controller, having an automatic energy thinking which deals damage in a line. His bottom path completely flips it on his head, becoming a single target tower. It deals single damage, pretty low as a matter of fact, but has a really high explosion that activates when a certain amount of attacks connect. You know, it's really similar to the TS Commando. You know, a bounce commando, that is. This tower is really expensive to max on both sides, the second most expensive out of any tower in the game as a matter of fact. To get this tower previously, you had to beat last year's 2021 Cold Construct event to Chapter 3, and then you get it there. Now, I was fortunate enough to get it this way because the way to obtain it now is Cancer. You have to beat 5 Expert Plus maps. You can activate Expert Plus by making Expert 1.8 times by using modifiers. And it sure is hard, alright. Okay, is that it? I forgot to mention the flying enemies. They're basically this game's hidden enemy which certain towers can target. Are we done now? Okay, finally, we can move on. Yay, hurrah. So where does that bring us? To the Cold Construct events. Now both the 2021 and 2022 Cold Construct events last for about 2 months. It is the yearly event that puts the community against 4 different chapters. It's actually really similar to the TDS Solar Eclipse event, but in my opinion, even better. What I mean about this, I guess you're just gonna have to see it for yourself, or play if it's winter. So one of the main major differences that makes this event better than in every single way is that this event actually has lore that ties into the main game. So the lore goes in this event is that we have the constructs, the main enemy of this event, going rogue on us, the players, and joining the dark side. No, not like Star Wars. We have to basically defend against these robots until winter ends and they go bye-bye. At least that's why I interpret it, at least. So let's have a small overview before we jump straight into the event. So the event has 4 chapters that progressively get more difficult as it continues. We have, in order of chapter, Sub-Zero Dam, Winter Town, with the map being called Festive Village, Holy City, and Final Fortification, with the map being called Arctic Frontier. So these maps appear on a timer. The first 2 taking place before Christmas starts, the third before New Year's Eve, and the final in early January. You know, the average player might just say, like, what's the point of delaying the chapters? Aren't they already done? And yes, they are, unlike with the TDS Solar Eclipse event, while they were still scrambling the maps together and stuff, explain why Chapter 4 in that game delayed for a bit. But I actually really like this, as it allows the community to work together at once to overcome them at the same time, whereas the community would be all over the place if they all released at the same time. It also allows newer players to grind the game in order to get the harder to obtain towers like Recon Base and Mechanic, making this event very beginner friendly. There is also skins which I believe are exclusive to the year they debut in. Last year there were the winter/Christmas skins, and this year there are the Night Raider skins. I won't really go over the skins, but they are pretty cool. So without further ado, let's go right on into the chapters. Chapter 1 is a beginning chapter, similar to the TDS Solar Eclipse's Rockfield. The map itself takes place during a frozen dam. The first sightings of the constructs appear here. Constructs, if you weren't paying attention to the last section, are robots that were once our allies in battle, but they have mysteriously gone hijacked and are now fighting against us. Okay, so here's how I'm going to break down each and every single chapter here. I'm going to first talk about the map layout itself as well as the style of it. Now, since I'm an epic gamer of this game, I'm also going to be talking about the wave layouts and noteworthy enemies and counters of all these chapters. For this chapter and only this chapter, I'm going to also overanalyze every single enemy here, because why the hell not? So the early game enemies are the elves, 20 HP enemies which are pretty tanky. They're also pretty easy to defeat, as in all chapters you are given quite a lot of money compared to like TDS Solar Eclipse. You can mainly use 3x crossbows to kill them, or sharpshooters I guess, but just use the crossbow, man. Canes, not the restaurant, appears on wave 2. They are faster and more tanky versions of elves, having 25 HP as well as a 5 HP shield, making 30 HP in total. Same sort of thing, just spam crossbows. Metal constructs appear on wave 4. They are the boss 1 type of enemy here. Also, I'm mainly going to be basing this off of other Roblox Tower Defense games. So if you play Bloons, well, fat out. These guys have 200 HP and 100 shield HP, making it 300 HP in total. On top of that, they're also metal, making it so it has a damage cap of 10. Kinda like the old TDS Templar, but you know 10. This can be a threat if you mainly spam crowd control towers like Demolitionist and Crossbow. A good counter for him is just using Sharpshooter, or Sniper, or Vulcan, or whatever. Wave 5 spawns the Frostlock, the summoner enemy for this event. He has 300 HP and 100 shield HP, making it 400 HP in total. He also spawns 3 40 HP Snowbots, which is basically the hardest spammed enemy up to this point in the map. Use similar stuff to defeat him as you did with the Metal Construct, and crossbows for the Snowbots. Coals appear in wave 7, the second to last wave of this map. They have 1000 HP and 800 HP shield. I don't know, wiki's kinda outdated. I get my information from the wiki, so don't dare trip me. Along with shield defense and 30 damage cap. This is a pretty hard to defeat enemy, as 18,000 HP is not something to scoff about. Again, you can use sharpshooters and gunslingers mercenaries to kill it. Better yet, use Elite Vulcan or Light Beam if you have them. And now we reached wave 8, the last and final wave of this chapter. The last and final enemy is Red Titan Tower Blitz, also known as the Diminisher. This guy is quote-unquote the sturdiest member of the constructs. Oh yeah, there's the lore of this game. You can read enemies lore by pressing E. It has 55,000 HP with no shield. At least in chapter 1 it doesn't have a shield. It's slow like the other tanky enemies here, while also having 2 abilities. One of them is the Diminisher Discharge. smashing its axe against the ground, creating a shockwave and stunning towers. It also has another ability, Axe Slash, where it swings its axe at towers near it, stunning them. The latter will almost never happen, however, if you're smart with your tower placements, or if you're not playing Chapter 4. The Diminisher Discharge is his main ability, and it's really freaking annoying, especially in Chapter 2, but we will get there soon. If you truly hate the ability, it's best to bait it with Slingers and Mechanic, as well as with Recon Base if you place it near the track. There are many ways to defeat this guy in Chapter 1. The most beginner way is to spam Gunslinger Mercs to defeat it. Alternatively, you can use Elite's ability to nearly two-shot this guy. So that's it. A decent start to this event. Some other notes is that it's best to solo this map to win, or duel it to carry a noob / get carried. If you're grinding Sins, this is probably the best map to grind on, as it gives 100 tickets on the first clear, and 50 tickets for each substantial clear. Also, compared to the last year's event, this map is actually very different. There are a lot more waves, with some enemies having more health like the Frostlocks. The Angel Constructs also appear here, but don't anymore, now first appearing in Chapter 2. So that's Chapter 1. It being so short, I can analyze it greatly. Here on forth, I'll just glance over new enemies or difficult waves and such. Chapter 2, Winter Town, or Festive Village. I don't really know, I'm just gonna call it Chapter 2 for now. So jumping straight into things, this map is actually a challenge, what a surprise! Like seriously, if you die on Chapter 1, actual skill issue. Or you probably just play with 3 or more people, I don't know, just solo it or duel it. So this map sure is a Christmas town, alright. It kinda gives you the vibe that I'll find it in one of those Recon Base Christmas specials. But anyways, this map has 2 entrances, both leading towards one entrance. Most, if not all, your damage towers should be placed at the end. There's also some awkward spot in the middle, but where you can do some funny stuff with Tech Blade, but it's more reliable to place in the back. But anyways, let's move on to the waves and enemies, as we got quite a few new ones. The first 2 waves features the elves and the canes from Chapter 1, so again just use crossbow or elite or something. Wave 3 has gingerbreads, tanky dudes that are not as tanky as the metal constructs, but they are spammed a lot more. Killing these gingerbreads are actually pretty challenging. A suggestion is to use Elite or Vulcan to kill them pretty quickly, or just chip with Sniper. This wave also spawns red ornaments, aka the breakers of this event if you play TDS, where they're actually a spawn enemy here, but they debut on spawn here. It's kinda confusing, so bear with me. Next wave, the Frostlocks return, and again they're pretty hard as well since they spawn in the early game this time, with the player lacking cash. Okay, wave 5. The Nightmare begins. You see I did an Invaders Zim reference, go watch Invaders Zim. 3 enemies debut here. Helper Elves, Spirit Constructs, and Blue Ornaments. Let's start with the latter. These guys spawn red ornaments on death. You see, like the breakers from TDS. Well, if you don't play TDS, my god, you're lucky. So I'll just give another example. Nesting Dolls, or whatever it's called. The thing that holds multiple smaller versions of itself inside. Spirit Constructs are our first flying enemy of this event. Previously debuting on Chapter 1, now here for some reason. They're kinda tanky and fly, as well as being pretty spammed. Now a good counter to these guys are Sharpshooters bottom path, as well as Demolitionists, or hell even Crossbow, but Crossbow starts to fall off here, so use him with caution. Helper Elves are really annoying enemies, buffing enemies around it. Hooray! Specifically giving enemies around it 5% shield. These guys are mostly in between enemy spams, so good luck killing him without area attackers like Mechanic or Demolitionist. Wave 6 green ornaments spawn, which, you guessed it, spawns blue ornaments on death. Okay, these guys are actually getting pretty annoying. Spawning 150 HP along with 3 defense. These guys can pretty easily cripple your defenses unless dealt with carefully. Actually, I think it's time to reveal the true goal at ornament counters. Trapper. Yes, I said it, Trapper. Once you get at a high enough level, it can act as an emergency defense in case ornaments or other enemies leak, which will happen, by the way. It's just a matter of time. So having at least one Trapper is extremely recommended on this chapter. Hell, meta even. You know, I told you guys this gimmick is niche, but it can be extremely good under right circumstances. This being one of them. Along with green ornaments, metal constructs also debut here. Again, you can use the likes of Trapper for leaking bosses such as this guy, or just chip him down with Elite. Wave 7 actually doesn't have anything new, unless you count the Snowbots, which I forgot mention spawns on the Frostlock wave. Wave 8. Holy shit, who set time 0? Calls return this wave. Their bulkiness intact, so just use high TPS towers against him, such as Elite, Sniper, Vulcan, etc. The captain also warns us of a new flying enemy next wave, which are Festive Hellies. Wow, that transition was smooth. And yeah, they are certainly tough floating enemies. Not that tough with Syl. Also, why the hell do I right touch my script? Purple ornaments also debut here, and it spawns green ornaments, yada yada. Also, here's a cool detail I found while playing this map. It actually progressively gets darker and darker each wave up until wave 11, which is kind of cool. It brings out the scene a lot more. I mean, not by a lot, but it's certainly noticeable. Wave 10. He's back? Holy freaking bingo. Yeah, you can tell how long I've been working on this video just from that one line alone. Oh, and he has double HP with a shield. You know, cool game. Other than that, it's basically just the Diminisher from Chapter 1 again. Use high DPS towers again, you know the drill. Wave 12 spawns the bane of this map, the Mechanical Bugler. Basically a green reskin of the Bugler of 4X Tower, who's also big. A lot big. He's basically the heavier, tankier version of the Helper Elves. Not being too fast, but sporting higher health than even this chapter's Diminisher. He has two abilities. He can use his systematic snares to heal all enemies around it, as well as using Blaring Bugle to speed enemies around it up. Despite having all these buffs to enemies, he's usually the guy you want to kill last, as the enemies that it buffs are way bigger threats than the guy himself. By himself, he's basically no threat, let's be honest. Same thing with Diminisher. Speaking of which, the two have some sort of Bonnie and Clyde sort of pairing. They are both made to disrupt gameplay, both covering each other. The Mechanical Bugler buffs, the Diminisher stuns. Also, before moving on, the trailer for this year's event, which I did not know there was a trailer before making this video, shows him on Sub-Zero Dam, aka Chapter 1. Why? Dude, I don't freaking know. Why are you asking me? Also, a word of advice, Demolitionist and especially Bottom Path Mechanic shreds the late game of this map. If you have either of those, spam them like no tomorrow. Oh yeah, and also Light Beam and Electricizer too, don't forget about those. You know, Wave 12 actually has nothing new. You thought. Festive biplanes. They sure are tanky. No, for real this time. 1000 HP and 200 HP shield is not something to glance over. Good luck if you don't have any good flight detection towers that can crowd control as well, as without those, this will be your end. No chopper can't save you, these guys fly, smart guy. Yeah, that rhymes. We finally reached it, Wave 13, the final wave of this map. Wait a minute, that's Shaxplot's theme, what the hell? Hold on, give me a moment, guys. Why did you have to be discontinued? Why? You're like a brother to me. I mean, minus the pedal stuff, but still.
Command, because then it would be a lot more better. At least one, just one game, just one.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. This wave is actually light on the peon side, so you can focus on the boss, which is the guy from Invade. Holy shit, it's the guy I love Invade! The Combustor. The Construct's attempt to mimic Santa Claus, who is real, by the way, don't at me. Okay, let's actually talk about the 2021 version first, as it is pretty different from the 2022 version. I mean, not that different, but still. This version has 70k HP and a 20k HP shield. It's pretty slow like the Diminisher and the Mechanical Bugler, as well as having 2 defense and electricity immunity. It has 4 abilities, one called Anti-Combustion, where it's just a passive damage cap of 200. So no 4x electricizers, I guess. Another is the standard melee attack named Mechanical Scratch, swiping and stunning towers with its claws. The last 2 are Festive Flamethrower and Frosty Flamethrower attacks. The fire from the Flamethrower decreases range on towers hit by it, while the freeze lowers attack rates. So that's last year's Combustor. What's different about this year's? So this year's has buffs and nerfs to it. One is having 25k less HP and 10k more shield, making it 45k HP and 30k shield. It also has a new blast ability, which I presume is to counter Light Beamer, and a new ability, and a really annoying one at that, arguably the worst out of his kit. Emergency Backup activates when he gets low on his HP meter, where it has a chance to make his damage cap 15! This may not seem that bad, but on later maps, this will be. Oh yeah, spoilers, sorry guys. So word of advice, do not max electricizers here. If one will use electricizers, use 3x at most. Your main DPS will likely be Light Beamer, oh yeah, Blast Immunity, sorry. Vulcan, Sniper, and Elite. Maybe Recon Base, but it isn't really needed for this map. Basically, fast attackers are the way to go here. It's pretty hard to defeat, in this clip in particular, he almost got to the end. But yeah, that is Chapter 2. Overall, a really hard map, but possible with the right towers and by playing smart. In summary, just use Mechanic and Trapper if you have them. Elite, Vulcan, Light Beamer, or Sniper, and Electricizer as well, but those are optional. I mean, you gotta pick one. Bugler is also needed here, of course, as it's basically Commander. Unlike in Chapter 1 as it's really easy. You know, I'm getting pretty tired of the constructs attacking us. How about let's attack them? Let's go on and attack the capital of Bavaria. Without further ado, let's move on to Chapter 3. Chapter 3, Holy City. A city on the planet Bavaria, home of the lost civilization of the Archangels, almost all of which are extinct. The reason why they're almost all extinct now is that they were once on the side of the X faction or XCF, actually being in gameplay for a while, but tried to betray the Overlord and thus went extinct. Go figure. So what are we doing here on this map, you may ask? Constructs. Yeah, those bucket of bolts took over the city and are mimicking the culture of the past. Not cool, you guys. You know, they're actually thriving off the people's ideas of the past. You know, sort of like... Game fam. So anyways, that's the basic rundown of the lore of this map. Pretty cool, I guess. Also, there isn't really anything for the previous two maps, just constructs and painting for the sake of it. The map is actually pretty unique for a tower defense game. It's like the TDS Frost Invasion map Outpost 32, but in a different way. The very start is basically Outpost 32, but the last 2/3 of this map is completely different. It has a straight line, straight as 4 paths are, with 2 paths going towards one direction and 2 in the other. At the 2 ends, there is a path layout very similar to the first third of the map. Ironically, when defending on this map, you want to place all your towers in the middle with no bends whatsoever. You know, this map is actually pretty elegant. I better not see some silly shit on this map. God damn it! Let's actually talk about the old Holy City from 2021. The early game for this was way easier. For one, you get 4,000 cash to start as opposed to the 3,000 this year. Also, that was before the Sharpshooter nerf, so yeah. Yeah, that's basically it for the main difference from this year and last year. Mid-game and end-game is pretty much the same. There's also a new enemy that appears here that didn't appear before. Oh ho ho, we will get there when we get there. So let's go on to the wave structure of this year. Grails and Lifeworkers are basically the spammed early game enemies for this map. They're both pretty easy, but the lack of cash this year makes them kinda hard to counter. Your main counter that you'll almost always use is the good old reliable Vulcan spam, where 2 to 4 people get Vulcan and the rest get Bugler or something else. Lifeworkers also regenerate health when they're not getting attacked, but it's more of a bonus or anything. It isn't particularly anything annoying. Metro Cops are the harder enemy to counter here, being spammed about as much as the first 2 but having 2 times the health as well as speeding up to at 60 HP. Again, just use the good old Vulcan spam. However, there's a good chance that one of these guys can link, as well as the next enemy, Crusader. These guys are basically the mini bosses. Well, for early game anyways. Again, they're spammed, but not as much as the others, but you'll usually see 2 or more spawn in that time. These guys have more than triple HP of the Grails and Lifeworkers, along with being really fast compared to the competition. A way to counter them is with Vulcan to wear them down and finishing off with the Electricizer or Recon Base. These guys are also immune to Blast, meaning if Demolitionist was your main source of damage, good luck. All 4 of these guys spawn in the first 4 waves, with each spawning a unique enemy. So wave 1 spawns Grail, wave 2 spawns Lifeworkers, yada yada. There are also no enemies from the first 2 chapters. No elves, no canes, none of it. This is a chapter filled with all new enemies, all unique to this chapter, which is pretty cool. This also might be the reason why chapter 4 got delayed and the devs got burned out. Officers spawn on wave 7. These guys are like a light mixture of the Diminisher and the Mechanical Bugler. You know, every time I think about these guys, I just think about the badass officers from the Evolution of 8 Nightmare events. Which is also a pretty good event in my opinion. I really don't know why. Like, when you think about Werner Heisenberg, you don't think about Walter White, right? Okay, bad example. These guys shoot at towers with their pistol, as well as friendly firing at enemies, except not really, as it gives them 150 HP shield as well. These guys are pretty tanky. 550 HP. They're also slow, like really slow, again compared to the previous enemies. Unless you think the Recon Base units are fast, these guys should be slow to you. Really anything can counter it. It doesn't have to be Vulcan or Electricizer. And by that I mean reasonable counters, like you think Slinger's gonna do anything. The next wave, the captain warns the player of a tanky presence in the couple waves. These guys are the hover tanks, enemies that can tear through the frontline defenses. You know, the Chad Captain versus the Virgin Commander. Seriously, that's like comparing Han Solo's aim to a Stormtrooper aim. You know, after Disney bought Lucasfilms and butchered the franchise. Wave 10, these guys arrived. Holy Zoink's back and 2,300 HP with 500 shield. Whatever, let's just use a lead. Oh, can't do that. Problem? Light Beamer. Okay, maybe Light Beamer is a bit overkill and not really needed here, as you originally had to beat this map to unlock it. It's still an option though. A more original option is max out Vulcans in a 3x electricizer, killing it from afar. Also, be sure to use the Bugler drum for when he approaches the defenses. Now you may be asking, as a tank, does it shoot? Yes. Angel constructs appear next, and they are certainly harder spirit constructs, haha, yes! It's okay, Captain, you're still golden in my books. Unlike a certain someone! Next wave, priests. Now we're getting somewhere with these flying enemies. Sporting more HP than the biplanes. No, not really, but they can have more effective HP. They have 700 HP with a 150 HP shield, being kind of fast and slow at the same time. You know, average speed. But the thing is that they can spawn the angel constructs from earlier, acting as some sort of aerial necromancer. You know what? Not a bad idea for an enemy. I can dig this. Still easy though. Wave 13 has no enemy. Wait, he spawns this wave? But the wiki says it spawns on wave 14. God, this wiki's ass! Anyways, Avarian constructs basically reskin tankier metal constructs. Their main ability is having a damage cap of 14, like the metal constructs having 10. Oh, I didn't mention it yet, but they have a damage cap. Though as they spawn in the early game and the maps were good enough, long range isn't needed, I didn't mention it there. That is not the case here. Yeah, you mainly want to use Vulcans and Elites and Light Beamers against this guy instead of Electricizers. Man, this map really hates Electricizers, huh? But the map layout favors them. I don't know, man. But alas, pretty easy by the time you get to them. Wave 14 has... Wave 15 has... Okay, I have my phone. Wave 16 has these edgelords Dark Priests showing up, aka the racism emoji from the Tower Blitz Discord server. Anyways, these guys are basically harder priests, as you expect, having more HP than the Festus biplanes as well. Well, for real this time. They trade their summon ability for another, to cast a fireball above towers. Well, no, actually, it's a mother dumbass. Read the lore next time, please. Again, like the Combustor, these guys don't stun, but instead make towers fire slower. Again, not bad in all honesty. Man, this map really isn't that hard for mid to late game, huh? Foreshadowing. Now there are the Ardents, fast guides. That's it, they're basically just fast. They actually have some HP as well, 400. Still, they're just fast. Wave 19, the Lord of all Crusaders appears, which is just too strong for the frontline defense. At least that's what the captain says. I mean, the sky sets and it's now dark. It must be true. Is it? No. The Crusader Lord is basically just a Mega Gargantuan, sporting similar speed in the shield mechanic as them, speeding up once the shield is broken, but being way more beefy. So just to use a lead. Are you kidding me? The same thing? Okay, so why is this enemy a joke? Oh, ha ha ha, Electricizers exist. Okay, just spam that then. Wave 20. This is the most feared wave by me. Oh my freaking god! Okay, so couriers debut here. Flying couriers, as a matter of fact. Basically flying hover tanks, except not really, as they're based off the carrier tanks from expert mode. It flies and is tanky, and is slow, and spawns a bunch of enemies when defeated. Now you may be asking, is that it? I am not finished. No, no, no. A single Archangel spawns, one of the two mini bosses of this chapter with the health bar. You mean the ones from the lore? Yes, the ones from the lore. It flies and is lightning fast. So you may be asking, I'll just get Light Beamer or Sniper or Elite or Redacted to counter him. You know, sometimes that's not enough to counter this guy, and he just slips on by with 10k HP. Ironically, or unironically, the non-construct enemy is harder than all the construct enemies, including the boss. Now this guy actually didn't appear last year, making him the only new enemy to appear in Chapter 3. He isn't even new, spawning in expert mode for some time, but getting removed for one reason or another. Also, I'm laughing so hard, the balls of the devs to put in the lore. Meat shield. Fuck you! Okay, before we move on, while I was actually typing this script, I found something really interesting on the wiki. This doesn't have anything to do with Chapter 3 or the Cold Construct event as a whole, but it's just worthy of pointing out. This is the Duel. Currently a randomizer exclusive enemy that resembles a lot like an Avaria enemy. That's because they are from Avaria origin. I'll read the quote unquote. The Duel is the last of the Avarians, the remains of a once great civilization. After the Great Civil War, which devastated Avaria, and the crucial hold of the Constructs hold over the city, only the Duelists truly sided with the Overlord, whilst the rest defected. Their loyalty ensured their survivability, and their adherence to the Overlord is often tragic. What this means is that these guys were wiped along with the Archangel, which one of them is. What I'm thinking is that this guy was going to be the original replacement for the Cancer Angel in Expert Mode. They probably would have had abilities, but these guys are not finished because of their animations as well as their abilities not working. I mean, the Archangel dude wields a boat and the Knight wields a trident of some sort, so it must have some sort of ability. It also uses the Archangel's icons. These guys' lore is also very similar to the Archangel lore as well, them being the last of their kind, only surviving after siding with the Overlord in the XEF. Furthering my points, the wiki says that this guy is a potential replacement for the Archangel to be used inside of Expert Mode, where the old Archangel appeared in. Hell, they can even appear here. But this guy has super high health, so it's kind of hard to believe in it. So anyways, the next enemy and mini-boss with the health war is the Councilman. Mini-bosses with 20k HP and 10k shield. Wait, that's just the Archangel's health, what the hell? Well, actually that was done on purpose. Okay, so lore-wise, these guys are made to mimic the annoying-ass Archangels. So I guess that's why they have the same HP. These guys have 3 abilities: Counselor's Bidding, which spawns a portal. You know, the enemy portal. Wow, so scary. More on that later. Invaders Archangel, which boosts shield HP to 7k. Thruster Wings actually makes use of the wings where on use. Receives 1k shield HP as well as charging up a speed boost. You know, in gameplay I thought this was from Bliss of Finality. What is that? We'll talk about later. But it uses the same sound as Bliss of Finality but higher pitched. Portals are a summoned enemy spawned by the Councilman. I actually did not know they were a freaking thing in Cold Construct 2021, nor in Cold Construct 2022 until making this video. These guys have a grand total of 1 HP, with 4k shield. Basically just get any splash tower to kill them easily. Anyways, these guys have no speed but can basically summon any late game normal enemy at this point. Also loses shield HP over time. Why? I don't know. Which brings us to wave 22. We get a message from some unknown entity talking about engaging in combat for control over the Holy City, which is obviously the boss. The wave layout is mostly the same as the last wave, but it has an additional councilman, making 2 appear this wave. Surviving this easy wave brings us to the final wave, the last sham, the final showdown, whatever you want to call it. We fight the Arbiter, the main guy responsible for rebuilding the lost Archangel civilization. A really powerful dude. At the time of recording this, he has about 100k HP with no shield. It originally had 100k HP plus 40 shield, but the shield was nerfed for some reason. Unless this clip shows the Recon Base is doing about 40k shield damage. You know, he's also pretty slow. Let's get into his abilities. He has 6, quite a lot. The first one, Sword Slam, basically creates the typical shockwave. The second one, Speed of Light, teleports him to towers and stunning them, as well as healing himself to 500 HP per hit on a tower, and by that I mean he gains 500 HP. Plasma Precipitation makes him lunge into the air summoning plasma balls. Now I actually cannot get any footage of this for some reason. I don't know, I guess it's just a rare ability. Nor could I find anyone capture footage of this, so I guess it's just a myth, I guess then. Sword Throw is probably his most common ability. He summons swords to go fly to your towers Yondu style and stuns them. Now the last 2 are his phases. The shield support has him whipping out a physical shield and gives him a damage cap of 200. His final stand, Divine Ascension, activates at 10k HP. This guy removes his damage cap but it turns it into a floating enemy. A pretty scary ability. However, unless you're doing this in solos, which there are people who solo this map, it is possible. Very hard but possible. Is it gonna change much of the difficulty because light viewers, ha. With the Arbiter down, we have completed chapter 3. A pretty interesting map with surprisingly a lot of lore around it. The Arbiter himself is one of the main bosses who makes this whole event happen. He supports the leader of the hijacking, Redacted, who created an interference from Redacted's attack on the rebels, the players. The fate of the Arbiter really does cripple Redacted's plans on the whole Construct war. The whole gameplay of this map is also pretty good. It never really feels unfair besides the whole who should not be named, and is overall pretty fun. Hey, you even get a skin for Lightbeamer based off the Arbiter and this map. Oh, never mind, it's from last year's Battle Pass. Hey, you can still get the headband and staff from Evade, I guess. I also like this map for making the funny Lightbeamer Battle Path a thing, as it uses a variant tech. Cool stuff indeed. Okay, I think I ran out of things to say at this point, so let's just go back to base and prepare our final fortification. Before we get on to the final chapter, let's talk about Recon Base for a second. Remember Recon Base, the spawner tower? Well, it can spawn units of all kinds. Go to the tower section for a refresh on them. But what if I told you it could spawn even more? Introducing the secret unlockable 5th level. There's an extra level on each path, making 2 unlockable levels in total. You can access quests from the moment you join the game. There being a star on a certain tower. Currently, Recon Base is the only tower with it. From there, you can track one of 2 quests. You don't even need to own the tower. These quests unlock Alien Warfare, the top path, as well as Bliss of Finality, the bottom path. Alien Warfare has you focusing on Recon Base and doing damage with that. In fact, all things you have to do here relate to Recon Base in one way or another. The sets are as follows. Use 500 abilities, deal 5 million total damage with Recon Base, deal 1 million RAM damage, and deal 200k Recon Base damage in a single match. Bliss of Finality has you focusing on miscellaneous stuff instead of mainly using Recon Base. These steps are deal 50k damage with Gunslinger's Mercs, unlocked at 4x, deal 1 million damage with Fireteam Solum, troops spawned by Recon Base X4, spawn 2,000 units, and beat 2 advanced challenges, bring the Special Ops and Beginning of the End. If you remember, challenges are used to get skins, with advanced challenges allowing you to get Elite. These 2 specific challenges are pretty easy. Bring the Special Ops makes you beat hard mode from wave 5 to wave 27 using only Elite and Recon Base, which is pretty easy if you just abuse Recon Base. Beginning of the End makes you start on the Corrupted wave, that being wave 30 on Expert mode. The set loadout here is Sharpshooter, Electricizer, Recon Base, Vulcan, and Bugler. Typical endgame stuff. Sharpshooter is mainly there as an anti-floating. Of course, you start up with a buttload of cash, 80,000, which you can get many Electricizers and Recon Bases with, as well as some Vulcans and Sharpshooters. You basically play into the Overlord's wave, the final wave, and win. This challenge is one of the few that is multiplayer, with Bring on the Special Ops being one of the many single-player challenges. So in summary, Alien Warfare is more suited for endgame players who own Recon Base, while Bliss of Finality is accessible to noobs who will have to get Recon Base in order to complete the final mission. I mean, unless you use advanced challenges, I guess. But there is one final thing to do to actually obtain these levels. You have to beat 2 special challenges, Budget Recon and Overload respectively. Budget Recon relates to Alien Warfare and makes you beat waves 1 through 18 on Expert, up to the Berserker wave with Businessman and Recon Base. The goal is to save up for Recon Base's missile truck, and it's basically just smooth sailing from there. Overload has you beating waves 20 to 30 on Expert mode, up to the Bolt Master wave, where you use Elite, Recon Base, and Mechanic, the only challenge with a quote-unquote exclusive tower. It has you doing a lot of stuff too complicated to explain here, but you mainly want to use Elite's ability to damage the carrier tanks and Bolt Master himself. You can use Josh Matt's guide to complete these challenges, or really any quote-unquote possible challenges. But now let's get into the upgrades, as both play a big role in Chapter 4. Alien Warfare costs $105,000 in skills and money, relating to how many of that upgrade you have. It replaces all top path exclusive units and replaces them with even better units. Gold Mark 2s are now Light Strikers, gaining a heavy HP increase, so now it has 600 HP along with doing 150 DPS and moving a lot faster. The spawn cost is still free. Missile trucks get replaced by javelins, costing 16,000 now. It improves all stats, now having 240 DPS and 15,000 HP. Being faster as well. Tanks are now Scyther tanks, costing 35,000, having 4,000 health, and having insanely high DPS. The gun has 130 DPS, while the cannon has 600 DPS, making 730 DPS in total. Was it worth it for all that money? Kinda low priority, as again, it's unreliable despite dealing huge DPS. Design-wise, they look like Expert Mode's X-Faction or XCF vehicles, with the Light Striker looking very much like the Elite drones, but with a gun. The lore goes is that these were built from stolen plans from the X-Faction, so yeah. At the time of recording this, if you use a skin on these, they appear unchanged, which is kinda disappointing, but whatever. Now the Bliss of Finality upgrade was Recon Base's previous X4 upgrade, now replaced by Fireteam Solum and now moved to X5. It costs $140,000, which also increases just like Alien Warfare, but you'll most likely only have one of this at a time, so it doesn't really matter that much. It allows the spawning of the ship Bliss of Finality, a huge hijacked alien spaceship that does the most DPS of anything in the game, about 1,217 DPS. It has 4 weapons on total, a minigun that does 450 DPS, missiles similar to the missile truck and javelin that does 300 DPS, electricizer cannons that shoot and deal 500 splash damage, making 250 DPS, along with a giant laser cannon which charges up over time and does 26 explosions, doing 250 damage per explosion, up to 65,000 damage and 200 DPS. Now he only lasts for 90 seconds with a 240 cooldown and a 105 second global cooldown. Once it's gone, if you have enough money and you're not super laggy, you can sell the tower and buy it again to skip the cooldown. So is this upgrade worth it? Oh, very much yes. You see, this guy has flying detection, a huge game changer when fighting very tanky flying enemies such as the Eyes and Expert ranked up, as well as Redacted in Chapter 4. Again, you can also use him as a boss killer if you have enough money, that is. Unlike Alien Warfare, this guy actually has skins, as it isn't new to the game. Winter Ops basically gives it a black and red color scheme along with wings or something, I don't know what those are. Vandalist makes it a giant aircraft helicopter thing. So the lore goes is that this ship was once used by the X Faction or XEF for excavation purposes, but we hijacked it and turned it into a warship. Also, this was actually modeled after a 2011 free model, and everyone's just saying Bliss Finality real. That's kind of funny. But anyways, that's all the Recon Base unlockable upgrades. Why don't we wrap this up and get on to Chapter 4. Chapter 4, Final Fortification, aka Arctic Frontier, is the last and final chapter of the Cold Construct event. This is the only map to be cancelled in the Cold Construct event for 2021. This is due to Ulster, the lead developer, having burnout and lack of motivation, which, seeing what's in this map, is pretty understandable. Look at how many enemies are here, what the hell? So anyways, this map has you defending a snowy outpost with multiple lanes, the most out of any map in the game. We, the UEC, are in control of an extremely powerful weapon at this specific outpost that can spell the end of both the invaders, the normal enemies, and the constructs. To call this chapter ambitious is a massive understatement, featuring 10 lanes with entrances opening up, a return of every enemy fought in this event, besides gingerbread for some reason, along with an environmental hazard. Now since every enemy appears here, I won't really go into detail for every single enemy in the game, even the newer ones, as they are mostly just filler enemies. Okay, so this map is really hard. Not to the point where you need strats, but you will struggle a lot if you don't have hard to get towers like Recon Base, Lightbeam, or even Redacted. Ice and Ice Skaters spawn first, with both spawning on the side gates. They are the pretty easy early game enemies like the Grills and the Elves and etc. The lore goes like the constructs now have magical powers that can make inanimate things come alive. Okay, sure, I'll buy it. That being said, these guys might actually be the easiest early game enemy to counter, however, since while they have similar stats to the Grills and Life Workers, you get way more money against them, that being 4,000. The map is also a lot more fair than Holy City, as you can place in bends. Oh yeah, let's talk about the map. The map consists of 10 lanes. If I would compare this to anything, I would say the second part of Outpost 32 of the TDS Frost events, with how you can place towers in the middle of the 2 lanes, or 3 lanes in this case. Only 2 of the 5 gates are open at this moment, so just think of the layout as 2 easier versions updated ahead from TDS. The gate mechanic basically acts the exact same as Tower Heroes Facility Frenzy and Facility Raid from that game, when the gates from those maps open up at a set wave. Design-wise, this map is actually really cool. It's like they combined the Recent Denied map, Outpost 21, with the TDS Frost Invasion map, Outpost 32, and combined both of them into some mega fortress set in winter. There's also many slanted paths in here, which makes it so it's even more pretty to look at, or at least more ambitious of a map to fight on, given how this is the final chapter. It's even snowing, man. Now the snow actually affects gameplay in a negative way, but I'll explain it later. Still looks pretty though, as well as really setting the mood. So let's actually get back on track to the gameplay. You see I made a joke, I said track. Haha, I'm so funny. Wave 3, the captain warns the players that enemies from the previous battle are returning, notably one who flies. Oh, you know what, I kinda just gave away that the enemies from previous chapters are returning. Sorry about that, guys. This wave reintroduces the scary blue ornaments. Oh my god, not these guys again. Luckily, they are not that bad here because money. Wave 4 marks the return of the low helper guys who boost enemies by giving the shield. Again, these guys are not really a threat. Wave 5, the angelic constructs along with Frostlocks reappear. Again, spawn real threats or I'm leaving the game, unless you're a real idiot and you didn't get snipers for some reason. But that is on you at this point. These early game waves are really easy, so take full advantage of this and save for more expensive towers like Recon Base's 3rd upgrades. Wave 6 opens up the far left gate, over on this side. Green ornaments will appear along with Cyro's constructs, a new enemy who is just another cheap meat shield, although it has pretty high shield HP. Black Ice appears on the next wave, and are actually threats! Wow, what a shocker! To be fair, they're still pretty easy, but nothing you'll be shredding anytime soon. They're similar to Chapter 3's Crusaders, but are spammed a lot more. Alright, let's talk about Frozen Raiders now. These guys are scary. They have insanely high HP, around 1200, when factoring the shield, along with being kinda fast and having an ability that makes them faster called Ice Speed. Also, I like how this guy has his damage cap of 500 with an ability called, I kid you not, Existing. I ain't joking, look on the wiki. These guys can cause a pretty big leak in defenses, as these guys will soak up bullets, allowing stuff like Black Ice to slip through. Just look at this footage on the debut wave, the two raiders got really damn far. Next wave, the captain warns us that the miniature is returning again. You know, like William Afton in every FNAF game. Purple ornaments and infested helis debut in Chapter 4 here, and they can be pretty threatening if lacking DPS or air defense respectively. Again, just look at my footage here. And we reached wave 10. He came back, just like he always does. Along with that, he's stronger than ever, sporting about half of the Combustor's HP, not even including the shield health. The good news is that he's still hella slow, which means you can slowly pick him off with Light Beam or Electricizer spam. Along with that, every enemy introduced in Chapter 1 debuts here if it hasn't already. Yes, even the weak-ass Elves and Canes. They are all buffed as well, having the same stats as their Chapter 2 counterparts. Only the Coles are really threats here, other than the Minister himself, as they're spammed as peons here. Still slow, however, so not that big of a deal. Oh yeah, the far right gate also opens, I almost forgot about that. Ironically, the Minister spawns on the far left gate instead. Had to take that ADHD, viewers. After the Minister is defeated for hopefully the final time, a storm approaches us. Winter is coming. Yes, I know it's winter at this point. Just shut up, I'm trying to make a Game of Thrones reference. An environmental hazard, something not seen in most tower defense games. So basically, Bobo, the god among men, says to click a tower that is frozen 3 times to unthaw and unstud it. Towers can get frozen periodically, randomly as well. It doesn't really affect gameplay that much at first, but can get quite annoying later on. This wave also gets more energetic and faster music, making it seem like the previous waves were the easy stuff. Things are gonna get a lot more tense from now on. On the enemy side of things, faceted biplanes and frost constructs appear here. Faceted biplanes are as annoying as you expect, with the new Frost Construct serving as the last Metal Construct variant, who ironically does not have a damage cap unlike the other variants, but just sports high health and kinda fast speed. Well, you see guys, he's stronger because he has 3 antennas instead of 2. Gameplay wise, he's basically just a stronger version of a Frozen Raider, but the thing is, at this point you have so much money to use that these guys are not going to be a problem to deal with. Wave 12. It's the Return of Terror, he's back. Well, like the other Chapter 2 enemies, he isn't that much of a problem here, despite gaining more HP, as again he is slow, and like, the enemies he can buff are just little Black Ice or Frost Constructs at worst. But here's the thing, enemies spawn on one of the 4 different gates, where 75% of the enemies cannot even get buffed as they don't spawn on the same entrance as Mechanical Bugler. Wave 13, the last ornament, Orange appears. But again, they're pretty easy at this point in the game. A new enemy, Blue Flame, also appears, acting as some sort of bomber type enemy where it has low health but is fast, explodes on death, and leaves behind a charged Blue Flame, which are also pretty weak. Neither of these guys are really threats though. Wave 14 is basically just a copy and paste of the other waves, being pretty easy with enemies that we already faced. Okay, I actually forgot to record audio here for me saying wave 15, so wave 15. The captain warns us the Combustor's attacking. Oh, ooh, scary. Damn, the captain wasn't kidding when he said every enemy is returning. I mean, besides the Gingerbread, but still. Seriously, what the hell did the Gingerbreads do? He is supported from enemies from Chapter 2, such as the Ornaments, Mechanical Bugler, another Diminisher, and Biplanes, along with Chapter 4 enemies like Frost Constructs and Blue Flames. Dude, I swear, man, they keep changing these bosses' health. Like, it was once 400k, now it's 35k. Why? Anyways, he comes out of the last and final gate, the middle one, which also opens this wave. He basically is the exact same from Chapter 2. But nothing, he is the exact same one. Dude, what the hell was I smoking while I was typing the script? But the question is he really a threat here like in Chapter 2? Yeah, it depends. This appearance, not really, but remember the emergency backup ability? Adding a damage cap of 15? You can see where I'm going with this, right? As the main source of DPS is from Electricizers, this can be a massive problem here or in its later appearance. To compensate this, use Light Beamer or Recon Base or Sniper or basically anything other than Electricizers. Like seriously, I cannot stress this enough. Look at this clip. Electricizers don't do shit here. It was mainly the recon bases and light beamers doing the job. But anyways, with the chapter 2 segment over with, what do you guys think will spawn now? Yeah! Chapter 3 enemies. Hooray, you guys deserve some claps. The 4 early game enemies appearing in chapter 3 appear this wave, along with officers and priests. This wave is really easy, but that is what they want you to think. Wave 17, the captain suspects that the variant constructs are planning something big. Along with that, hover tanks and angel constructs appear. Again, really easy, you cannot really die here unless you are trying to. Next wave, oh boy, now they're sending out their big guns. A variant constructs, okay, easy so far. Also Dark Priest, Couriers, and Crusader Lords, yeah, that's more like it. These guys, again, can be of some sort of challenge. Dark Priest providing the debuffs, Couriers providing the floating attacks, which again have very high health for a floating enemy, and there being 4 Crusader Lords. Like, that's probably more than there ever were in Chapter 3 at a time. Don't quote me on that though. Also, before moving on, I want to talk about the Dark Priest's abilities to summon mortar shells. Despite the lore stating that these are from the city, where the hell are they getting these from? Is this some sort of oversight, or do the mortars have infinite range? Who knows? Oh, I get it. There's probably gonna be a Discord message explaining it. Oh, there's not? What do you mean there's not? There's a Discord message for everything about this game. Along with this, the captain warns us of a menacing aerial enemy. No, not the Archangel. Thank God he doesn't appear in this chapter. Something more airship-like. A huge airship looks like it's approaching the battlefield, but you know, not as huge as your mom. Wave 19 comes. Urns appear again, but they are the least of your problems. The variant capital ship, the Nexus, appears on the battlefield. A massive ship sporting the highest health out of any non-boss, categorized if it has a health bar, floating enemy, as well as any non-boss, non-event enemy in the game. That also appears in normal gameplay, not randomizer. The lore goes is that this thing was built right after the loss of the Holy City, out of spare constructs. It and another enemy, or perhaps boss, wink wink, was built, both serving to get revenge on the UEC. Stat-wise, this ship is floating, obviously, and sports 50k HP and 25k shield. God, that is combustors levels of HP. Let me remind you, Electricizer and 60% of the towers in this game are useless against it, since they don't have flying detection. And the cherry on top, it can spawn couriers with its variant escort ability. A spawning spawner, where I've seen that before. Oh yeah, this guy also has 30 defense, which later becomes 15 defense shortly after it spawns, so if you're that guy who cares about defense, you know now. And explosions, it's also immune to explosions. Yeah, not today, Lightbeamer, sorry. So how the hell are we supposed to defeat this menacing airship? Well, for one, Elite's ability is great for damaging the shield, which ability also does 3 times damage on shields. After that, Sniper and Lightbeamer. Also Bugler Drum is basically crucial to chain here. Redacted is also good here to both buff towers and do raw damage to the Nexus. But what if that's not good enough? What if he still has high HP? What if you don't have Elite to destroy the shield fast enough? Well, you remember the Recon Base 5th unlockable upgrades? Yeah, we're going there. We can call upon the mighty Fliss of Finality, baby! Of course, this thing cannot solo the Nexus by himself. I mean, he only has 1000 DPS. Okay, it sounds a lot, but I promise it's gonna take like 75 seconds to kill it. And you're mostly not gonna have that much time. Like, I mean, the Nexus is slow, but not that slow. At least I think I probably sound like an idiot here. Anyways, even then, it has a blast immunity, so it's gonna do even less DPS against it. With all my ways of defeating the mighty Nexus, you should be able to defeat it. But I didn't do the advanced challenges, and I don't have Bliss! Skill issue plus cope plus ratio plus backpeel plus stay mad plus don't care ratio plus double ratio. Okay, next wave, Arbiter is back, baby! Wait a minute, think about this for a minute. The reason all these past bosses could come back was because they were constructs. They were robots. Arbiter was not really a robot. So how is he back? Oh wait, it's mechanical. Wait, it and Nexus were made of... I see. You see, after the fall of the Holy City, 2 enemies were made. The Nexus airship and a mechanical arbiter. BAM! That's how you do a transition. You see, he sports his own theme on this wave. That's how you know he's a huge threat. He's also on the thumbnail, that too. He is supported by 2 councilmen, all 3 of them spawning in the middle. And again, a lot of Crusader Lords. All these guys go down pretty fast. With the councilmen both together taking about 70 seconds to die. Compared to the original Arbiter, this guy is actually threatening! This guy ironically has more HP than the original. I mean, it's just a metal dude. I'll expect a guy who can potentially overthrow the Overlords to be stronger than the same guy but metal, but whatever. Stat-wise, this guy has 150k HP and 100k shield. The highest shield HP in the game that appears in normal gameplay. He has 5 defense, and get this, is immune to freeze. You know, like every blasphemy, I don't even know why I mentioned it. Like the original variant, he has 6 abilities. Sword Slam is the exact same as the original, slamming the sword on the ground and stuns towers. Divination Blink is basically just the same as Speed of Light but a different name. Wait, actually there's 5 abilities because the wiki lied to me and skipped the 3rd one. What the hell? Garbage wiki, garbage wiki, garbage wiki, garbage! Actually all of his abilities are copy and pasted from the original Arbiter. Bladed Folis Laddie. Yeah, Folis Laddie, I'll just say that. Is just sword throw. Avarian Bulwark is just shield support. And Failsafe Protocol is just Divine Ascension. Yes, spats are flies as well. Let's talk about the last in particular though. In Chapter 3, Divine Ascension basically didn't do that much since the Arbiter at that point has low health there. And the addition of flying doesn't really do much. Here, by the time the peons are dead, the Mechanical Arbiter is about 1/3 of the way to the bridge section. Along with that, he has huge health, making it so when he does fly, he's almost out of the range of flight detection towers like Light Beam or Sniper. Well, it's close, but at the same time, he's still got some time. But the point is that by the time this guy does fly, he's past your main defenses, but in the end, this guy isn't really such a big of a deal. I would even say the Nexus is a bigger threat, actually. Once done with this wave, it's just rough sailing onwards. From here out, only new enemies debut as the last old enemies were the councilmen. They start sending out quote-unquote tankier constructs. Frost constructs. I mean, there are 2 diminishers, but still, you call these tankier, Captain? Notably, the Blitzer environmental hazard also starts to get worse starting on this wave. Alright, now it's time to talk about the elephant in the room. The Chapter 4 effect, as I call it. So what is the Chapter 4 effect, you may ask? Lag. It's lag. Lots of lag. It's very laggy. How much lag do I have to say it before you guys understand? It starts to really appear on the first combustor wave and amplifies times 50 here. So why does this occur? Simple, the map is poorly optimized. Just look at this gameplay, there's so much effects happening on screen. The bugler, electricizers, the falling snow, you name it. This is really the only negative thing about this chapter. I know the devs can't really control it, but it does make it overall a lot harder to play. Anyways, let's continue. Ice Lords and Cyrogenic Energy debut on this wave, as well as Winter Anarchist, but the wiki doesn't list him on this wave for some reason. Why am I not surprised? You know, I'm just gonna stop mentioning the wiki now. Ice Lords are the constructs that attempt on mimicking the Lightning Kings. Yes, the 800 HP enemy from easy mode. Why does it have crazy health then? I don't know. They aren't really a problem, however, since only a few spawn. Like, from what I can see, only 2 spawn this wave, so they're just kinda there. Cyrogenic Energy is basically this map's Ardent, but Ardents also appear on this map, so let's just call them harder Ardents. They're just a tankier version, that's basically it. 800 health can be scary, I guess. Notably, they're also immune to Elite and Blast. I'm so goddamn tired, I just want to get this video out. Winter Anarchists are attempts on mimicking the mages. Again, they have more health and are frost themed. Like normal mages, this guy uses Winter enchantment ability to speed up enemies like the Mechanical Bugler's Bugle. Like the Ice Lords, they don't really appear a lot. Oh boy, wave 23 time, the hardest wave here. You know how is the second to last wave the hardest of this chapter, as well as expert mode? What? So we get a message from an unknown source. Crazy thought, you guys. I'm gonna take a whim that's the final boss. So let's analyze this wave. The first part isn't that bad, just typical mid-game enemies. But then the Combustor spawns, making its 3rd and last appearance in this event. So you may be asking, oh, it's just Ice Lords and other stuff supporting him. It isn't too bad. I'm not finished! A new enemy appears, possibly the scariest enemy in this chapter. Below natural before Tedious turned into a furry, aka Behemoths. Holy fuck, you guys, Battle Cats reference. Enemies with 25k health, very fast speed, and having 2 abilities. One where it has a rest period where it puts down its shield, Winter Guard, making maximum damage of 5, and another where it swings its sword, Sword Slash. Guess what? There are 10 of them. What the hell, game? That is 250k HP to deal with, not even including the combustor. This is also another crucial wave to use Bliss of Finality, as well as really anything with high DPS. Like last time, the combustor will usually get targeted at last when there are behemoths on the field. This wave is basically a do or die. You survive the behemoth and combustor combo, or you fail miserably and waste some of your precious time. When the behemoths die, if the behemoths die, that is, combustor is usually going to be somewhere behind the bridge. I mean, you can chill combustor with behemoths on the field, but then again, there are fast-moving behemoths on the field. And guess what? Emergency backup, baby! Basically a worse fail-safe protocol situation where electrocyzers are useless. Let's go! Like seriously, good luck killing the combustor at this point. So anyways, if you're fortunate enough to survive that wave, the storm starts to ease up for a bit. Time for the final wave, the final battle. Before the final boss and the leader of the construct invasion arrives, we have stupid smelly behemoths as well as his bodyguards, Glacius Councilman. One of the few enemies leaked in the randomizer in 2021 since the event was scrapped, along with Ice Lord, Blue Flame, and Behemoth. At least I think. I'm probably gonna look like a dumbass once again. But at the same time, that was from the Wookiee, so if anything, blame the Wookiee for being a dumbass, not me. This guy possesses the exact same abilities as the old Councilman, but Various Archangel gets renamed to Glacius Archangel. Still has the same ability. Other than that, it's basically just a reskinned Councilman that has much higher health, higher than the Combustor, and doesn't have a health bar for some reason, while the original one does. Just treat him as any old Councilman, however, be aware that 3 does spawn. Now for the real boss, Glacius, a former member of the X Council, the council leading the X faction. He holds, or rather used to hold a position with the Overlord of Expert Mode. However, he was expelled for trying to stir up a potential rebellion, along with the winter constructs he was making. This makes his army an enemy to us, the UEC, as well as the XCF invaders. So now let's get onto his stats. He has the highest health out of any boss appearing in normal gameplay, more than even the Overlord's suppressed form, as stated in his description. He has the exact same health as Kronos, aka ranked up Overlord, 800k. He has no shield or defense though. Ability wise, he ironically doesn't have a lot. Less abilities than the Combustor and Arbiter variants. Ring of Frost causes him to grow icicles around him which stuns towers. Pretty much just a reskin of a simple stomp. Commanding Soldiers summons 5 of the following: Frozen Raider, Frost Construct, Black Ice, and Syro Construct. So he basically just stands still and does nothing for a few seconds. His last ability, listed as Frigid Fury, is his Rage mode, activating at 200k health. It makes him move a bit faster and gives him the ability to kill towers. At least allegedly, as I have not seen actual footage of towers getting killed. However, I would suspect that they would die in a similar way to the towers in the TDS Area 51 event. This final wave acts as a pseudo-traditional final wave like with TDS and tower battles. A lot of tough boys followed by 3 Guardian-like enemies, all followed by the final boss. Like in those games, you will kill those in the order mentioned. You basically need at least 1 player with Alien Warfare or Bliss of Finality to kill this guy, as he is just too strong without them. Also, the path isn't long enough, who would have suspected? Luckily, cash isn't that big of an issue here, so if you have the Recon 5th upgrades, you can buy them now. Also, you need a crap ton of light beamers and electrocyzers, so yeah. And Shane Bugler ability, yada yada. Frigid Fury and his ability to kill towers isn't that big of a deal. Will increase speed, yeah, of course, but the killing towers, not so much. It's a similar case to the Combustor. By the time it activates, all main DPS towers are out of range of Glacius, therefore they won't really get killed, but the weaker towers like Sniper will be. Overall, this is a pretty tense fight, only slightly easier than the dreaded Wave 23. You see guys, this is gaslighting right here, but once all of that is over with, we did it. We defeated possibly the biggest enemy of the UEC other than the X faction. Glacius is defeated. The constructs are back on our side. At least presumably if the constructs return in the Business Mode update. And all is safe. For now. And you also get an avatar of this event, the Surveyor. Basically a hacker from TDS, which I'll explain more on how it works later. You mean the guy from the thumbnails? Are you kidding me? All that censoring for nothing? Whew, that was a wild ride. Let's take a moment to look back on it, shall we? So as a summary of this entire event, it's basically broken up into 4 chapters. Chapter 1 has you defending a dam from constructs, robots that were once on our side but were hijacked and left us to join a mysterious source. These constructs can mimic culture such as here with the elves and cane constructs mimicking Christmas, which this event takes place during, at least in chapters 1 and 2. All is good until the Diminisher pulls up to the hood, an elite construct that pulls up to do some damage to the place. Overall, chapter 1 is pretty easy. Chapter 2 has you protecting a winter town where the constructs are attacking next. This time with even more advanced constructs, mimicking Christmas even more. Constructs can also expand or contract like with the ornaments. They also mimic us even more with the creation of the mechanical bugler. The boss of this map is the Combustor, an extremely powerful construct designed to tear down fortress walls, while also mimicking Santa Claus. This map is pretty annoying because of the many flying enemies, ornaments, and just spam in general. Any area damage towers are really good here like the Mechanic, Demolitionist, and surprisingly Trapper of all things. In the endgame here we can use Sniper for flight detection and Vulcan or Elite to kill the Combustor. Once we survive that attack, we launch our own counter-offensive and attack the holy city of Bavaria, a whole new and mysterious planet with their own constructs mimicking Bavaria's old culture of long ago. The Variants and Archangels that used to inhabit here are mostly all extinct, with there being a singular Archangel here in the Holy City. An annoying ass piece of shit flying in me which I wish was extinct with the rest, but I digress. There's also that whole deal with the duo, but I don't really feel like I should talk about it here since it isn't really relevant to gameplay. The constructs are currently inhabiting this place, while mimicking the past Bavarian culture, whether it be with Lifeworkers, Grails, Crusaders, etc. The beginning is pretty hard, having you to use Vulcan in order to kill the enemies. You basically have to work with the lack of early game cash here. Once you get to the Priest though, it's pretty easy. Up until the goddamn Archangel! God, I hate you! We then meet the Councilmen, pretty much the Arbiter's guards, which also mimics the Archangels. Once we start defeating his bodyguards, we then stir up the Arbiter's attention, and engage in battle with him. The Arbiter was the main leader of the campaign to rebuild the Holy City after the Archangels died off. He is ironically a bit easier than the Archangel since he lacks flying detection until his last 10k HP, and is a lot slower. This map overall I found a lot more fun than Chapter 2 and a bit less stressful, as the hard parts don't appear as often as in Chapter 2. After the successful siege of the Holy City, we return to a winter outpost with gates broken by the constructs. It's kind of unclear what they are after, but they are after a device which is powerful enough to destroy the invaders, the normal enemies, and the UEC. In this chapter, every enemy appears here that appeared in other chapters, minus the Gingerbread Archangel and the normal Arbiter. The early game is pretty easy until the Diminisher, who is still pretty easy, but you may struggle on thanks to his high health and shield. After that wave, a blizzard blows over the outpost, an environmental hazard that causes towers to freeze, which a player has to click on a tower 3 times to thaw. Flight detection is immediately a problem as of this wave as well, with visited biplanes spawning. Tanky enemies from the previous chapters like the Mechanical Bugler and later the Councilmen also return. Despite not being as problematic as their debut chapter, they can still be pretty annoying. The Combustor returns around in the middle of the gameplay section, with him here not being as scary as last time as we actually have cash for stuff like electricizers, but him still being a threat nonetheless. The Varian constructs also return here, arriving after the Combustor's defeat, back for revenge. Starting out pretty weak, they progressively get stronger and stronger over the course of a few waves, until they finally release their capital flagship, the Nexus, a flying airship with extremely high HP for a floating enemy. This is really difficult to counter as you basically need Recon Base's Blitz of Finality, or some other high DPS flight detection towers like Light Beam or a bunch of snipers. The Arbiter also returns, now mechanical since he died in his defeat at the Holy City. He poses the same threat as he did last time, sporting the same abilities with the addition of more health and more higher health enemies to assist him. Both of these guys remain following the defeat of Holy City, as a means to reconstruct the area. With that, the deadliest enemies of this event debut, such as the Behemoth. This tells us a dark presence is close. The Combustor returns for the final time in the hardest wave in this map, and arguably the event, having you to use Blitz of Finality if you want to come even close to killing the many Behemoths of this wave, as well as the Combustor himself. The Combustor is at his worst and hardest to defeat here, for reasons I discussed in the Chapter 4 section, but to sum it all up, he has a damage cap at low health, which basically means electricizers don't do jack shit here, where he is past the bridge once you kill all the Behemoths. With that, we finally angered the final boss of this event and leader of the hijacking, Glacius. Aided by his very own reskinned councilmen, he comes onto the battlefield with 800,000 health and a few but damaging abilities nonetheless. With that clutch of a wave, we beat Glacius and beat the entire event, and get a cool tower as well. Speaking of which, let's discuss it now. The Surveyor is a free tower obtained by beating the Call Construct event, up to Chapter 4. Back in the Chapter 4 section, I said he acts like the unreleased TDS hacker tower, which, let's be honest, will never release at this point. They both use tablets or computers or something to control drones to attack enemies. Visually, they both are the same, but gameplay-wise, he isn't really. I mean, I wouldn't know yet, because hacker is not in the fucking game. Stop procrastinating your updates, TDS. It's 3 years. You teased the hacker from 3 years ago. Okay, so where is it? Where is it? It's not in the game yet. I don't even know if it's in the code yet. There's no teasers in it for anything. Where is it? Where is it? But anyways, I like to see hacker in that game acting as Tower Hero's Haze, being a commoner, a summoner who summons crows who flies around the map. Instead, he works more like Beatrice, a similar tower to that. Instead of summoning crows that fly around the map, it summons bees that detect enemies in Beatrice's attack range. Oh yeah, this is referring to Surveyor, by the way. What isn't exactly like this? The drones detect slightly beyond Surveyor's range. It's still grounded like this for the most part though. This is a really good tower, acting kind of like Engineer from TDS, but in practice is much better at it, as it's actually worth building the lower level drones. And you know, can actually build more than one unique type of drone. TDS. This is because it kind of acts like a mini Vulcan once you build enough drones, making it really good for something like Expert Plus Metallic. Pathwise, the first two top increase drone lifetime and range, while the bottom two increases drone cap and adds in a new advanced drone. After this, you can go on and pursue the two different paths, as always, both having two very different playstyles. The top path focuses on more of a support role, having a radar drone at 3x, which is an ability which buffs towers damage to 10%, which summons a drone lasting for a set amount of time and can place anywhere, similar to the Mechanic's Force Field. 4x buffs the radar drone to 20% damage buff, while giving it Cyro drones that deal piss DPS but in return has a freezing splash attack. The bottom two focuses more on DPS. It can spawn Burst Drones Mark III, which has around 50 DPS while removing the previous weak-ass Burst Drones in the process. It also gives Sentinel Drones, having 30 DPS but being way more consistent, where it's basically a mini third path Vulcan, but also having flight detection. This drone lasts a whole lot longer than the other Burst Drones as well, as being more consistent due to not having burst like the others, making it more crowd control oriented. Not 4-2 gives a higher drone cap from 5 to 7 while replacing the Burst Drone Mark III with Bomber Drones. Drones which, you guessed it, drop bombs, but can't drop it like it's hot. Sorry. Also, this level's X4, by the way. These guys don't have fly detection. What the hell, game? Nerf! Nerf! You can't do this to me! They have about the same DPS as the Burst Drone Mark IIIs, but having area. This is actually kind of a questionable upgrade, as it might actually be worse for flight detection DPS, making it worse against stuff like the Archangel or the Nexus. Oh yeah, this guy owns Archangel, by the way. Yeah, it kind of depends on the situation, but I would say having Splash is a bit better, so yeah, just go with that upgrade. Design-wise, the first two upgrades were something similar to a blue bomb defusal suit, but I don't really know the actual name of the suit. But that's how I see it anyways, he could just be wearing a baseball batter helmet. But I mean it makes sense, since you want to use some kind of robot for bomb defusal. 3x gives him cool glowy parts. X3 gives him an edgelord mask. 4x is basically the visitor outfit from Fortnite. And X4 is the foundation outfit for Fortnite. Alright, we're done here. If you guys want to see more in-depth review, go watch Josh Matt's review on it. But for now, let's get into the lore. As a disclaimer for really any lore section I do, for any video I do, there is a high chance that I could get stuff wrong about the lore. I'll go over some basic Tower Blitz lore first before we get into the event. If I get some information wrong, you can just comment down below and I'll make sure to highlight your comment. The UEC, or United Earth Command, and the XCF, Serath Command Force, once lived in harmony living in space along with other beings, where suddenly a civil war happened, causing the UEC to flee to Earth. There we discover cloning technology, which gives us the power to clone stuff like towers and units, basically clones from Star Wars. This is further explained in the weak Invaders lore, where it says it has been cloned, and is a dummy enemy used in the tutorial. So with this tech, the X Faction or XCF, they basically are the same thing, got jealous of this power and sends the Volt Union after us to retrieve it. We kill Voltmaster. GG Nori. The Volt Union is basically a sub-organization under the XCF. Think of it like Breaking Bad Crazy 8 being part of the drug cartel, a much bigger organization, and being a small piece of the puzzle. Then it sends an ally of the XCF, the ISC, Imperial Space Commerce, after us, being stronger than the previous faction. Led by Ignitus's right-hand man, Saber Champion, and later Ignitus himself when Saber Champion gets defeated, they attack us in a second war. We kill them. GG no re. Sometime during these wars, we steal some of the XCF's own tech, Plasma, which was once used for force field for stuff like the ray gunners. It is used by us for weapons like Elite, Electricizer, and Bliss, which is also an XCF hijacked spaceship that was stolen by us. Bliss of Finality, if you remember, was an XCF spaceship used for excavation purposes, which we slapped guns on, turning it into a warship. The XCF, otherwise known as the Unseen Army, itself is attacking us now, mainly with robots led partially by the Boltmaster, but mainly the Robotic Overseer. You know the guy from Evade, guys. I love Evade. During the first half. We then get attacked by one of the finest war generals of the XCF, the Vanguard. You know, the other guy from Evade. I love Evade. We then fight the Ificated enemies, which is a whole nother can of worms to get into. Just know that when you know the secrets of the universe, you then grow eyes and become a mindless zombie. These guys are led by the Corrupted, the patient zero of the Ificated enemies who spread their wisdom to everyone, resulting in corruptions, nulls, tranquils, you name it. This whole fight I believe is non-canon, where I believe it simply exists to introduce the annoying-ass flying enemies and ranked up, as well as to explain the process of ification. Also, I love Terraria boss. Terraria, that's a reference to Terraria. We then fight the Overlord's last stand, sending in a whole lot of enemies including a f***ing star. And then we meet him, the Overlord. The Overlord is one of the 9 members of the X-Council, an insane ruler who just wants to kill everyone as he knows the truth of the universe, somehow not ificated. There's a pretty cool theory where he knows this is a game and just wants to kill everyone because he knows this is a simulation, but who really knows for certain? Well anyways, that's the main lore of the game. The Cold Construct War picks up right after the defeat of the Overlord, with, presumably, the PvP construct seemingly getting hijacked out of nowhere. We now know it's by Glacius, a former member of the X-Council, but is now expelled since he tried to start rebellion, as well as the whole Winter Construct ordeal, which he, I believe, made about one half of them and hijacked the other half from us. One theory is that the reason he was expelled is because the X-Council feared he would become too powerful, enough to overthrow the X-Council and XCF as a whole. The Arbiter, the leader of the reconstruction of the Holy City, supported this hijacking through inferring him on the rebels since he knows quite a lot about them. Now his whole Construct army are enemies of the USC as well as the XCF, making his army kind of a third wheel. The constructs themselves are quite similar to the X faction's robots, but I don't believe they are 100% the same. These constructs are really advanced. They can pretty much mimic anything. They can change their shape and size, same with the Christmas constructs, as well as sporting magical abilities that can make inanimate objects alive. The Construct War begins on the attack of the Sub-Zero Dam, which I believe is because the Construct wants to use it for some purposes. I believe I heard somewhere that the Constructs want to use the lab that's located here, but I don't really see a lab here, so who knows. After the attack of the Diminisher ended unsuccessfully for them, the Constructs, the Defenders or UEC moves onto a Christmas town. Here there's a larger show of the Constructs and their mimicking abilities, not only replicating Christmas but also replicating artifacts like with the mechanical bugler. A crude imitation of Santa Claus, the Combustor, attacks us, a high-class construct used to melt defenses, breaking fortifications and melting holes in walls, which might actually be deployed here for testing reasons, as there are 2 in the final fortification where they really want to use those constructs. Seems like if they really wanted to take control of this area, they would deploy more. But anyways, after this attack we launch our own counter-offensive, using Bliss of Finality or some other form of transportation to attack Averia, the Holy City that has been one of the main players of this war. The Holy City used to belong to the Variants and Archangels, where almost all are extinct besides one captured by the Arbiter and the other constructs, and 2 other Avarians surviving after signing with the Overlord. It's unknown if the 2 Avarians are even canon, considering they're not in gameplay yet, so take what they said about them with a grain of salt. The Avarians were a highly advanced civilization, which I presume is currently extinct after finding the unsuppressed Overlord, which we fight the suppressed version of him in Export. He is also on the same power level as quote-unquote the Overseer, which I presume is mentioning the Robotic Overseer. You know, from Evade! While growing power rapidly to where he could potentially be more powerful than the Overlord. Probably the suppressed version, I don't know. The constructs took this place over with the Arbiter in command of the Holy subsection. I would presume these constructs tried to take the place of the Arvarians, as they did with Earth with all those Christmas ones. All of this fails to take down the UEC, and so the Arbiter makes a deal that whoever wins the fight gets control over the Holy City. He comes out with support with constructs mimicking the mighty Archangels, the Councilmen. He dies, Rebozo. We return to our last outpost, with an unnamed device that can spell the end of the UEC and the invaders of the XCF. Since we are back on Earth, the Winter constructs from Wintertown return, along with us fighting inanimate objects that came alive because of construct magic. This magic could come from Glacius, but we don't really know for certain. With Christmas being over, the newer constructs are now adapted to the winter, with there being a few Christmas constructs, which the ones that do appear being noticeably stronger than the rest. I presume Glacius would expect a swift defeat, since they deploy lots of diminishers and another combustor. But this does not happen, resulting in him not being here until much later. And by being here, I mean talking to us. During this commotion, the Avarian constructs got word that we are here at this base and are planning to attack us in revenge. They might be after the device as well, but it is hard to say. This time the Avarian constructs have a trick up their sleeve. After the defeat at Holy City, they finished reconstructing the Avarian capital flagship, the Nexus, which someone actually pointed out it began construction before the defeat of the Avarians. The aliens, not the constructs. That could actually be a possibility since the captain knows it's their flagship, so if this was the case, they could have used the remaining materials to upgrade it more and to make it more combat ready. The Arbiter also gets resurrected, becoming the Mechanical Arbiter. This variant, I believe, solidifies that the Arbiter is in fact an alien and not a construct in a high position, who is this powerful due to Avarian technology, but still, who knows. They both get destroyed. After hearing about his closest ally getting defeated, Glacius gets furious and starts to send his toughest troops to capture the base once and for all, which arrive next wave. The second to last wave, aka the Cancer Wave, has them being extremely desperate. Not to a point where it goes into the battlefield, but close to it, and deploys the elite combustor once more, along with supports of behemoths. It's also worth noting that there's a blizzard blowing over the fort, starting after the first Diminisher defeat. This may not sound lore relevant, but think about this. It could actually be from Glacius, as it gets more violent at the same time Glacius gets furious, after the defeat of the Mechanical Arbiter. When his final stand fails, Glacius gives up and goes to attack the defenders face to face. He fails, woohoo, gonna cry Glacius? And with that, the war is over. All is forgiven, yada yada yada. This could result in the PvP constructs returning to our control and all being normal and stuff. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory! Oh, that was horrible. Hold on. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory! Okay, much better. You know, I really spent a week analyzing Roblox Tower Blitz lore. Huh. That was my story. I was first lieutenant of the UEC during the Cold Construct War. True story, you guys. Not joking, the captain actually came up to me and said, "Hey, you're a furry," which I am not, by the way, which means you're good at tower defense games, so you want to lead this army after me? And I said, sure, and here I am, sitting here discussing my story. And with that, it's time to resign, put down the towel, and go home. Hey, Construct, what month is it? April? April, it's spring! It's called. How long was I been here? It's the Cold Construct War. I've been here for a season. Oh God, I gotta get out of here. Shoot. Ain't no way they re-released it. That's right. It's back now, and it's now permanent. Why? I don't know, could you compete with TDS or something? First, talking about this season's Battle Pass. This includes all 2022 Night Raider skins, as well as most skins from 2021, minus Krampus, Trapper, and Winter Ops Recon Base for some reason. Also, Varian Paladin Lightbeamer isn't here, but that's understandable since it technically should not exist. The sole reason it exists was to make up for Chapter 4's delay. You can get one token from the Battle Pass, how fun! Jokes aside, this used to hold the other Lightbeamer skin, Avarian Knights, now taken off sale because it's supposed to be rare. But I don't know, man, taking it off sale 1 week after starting the event seems kinda cruel to me. If you owned the skin from the previous events, you don't have to pay for it and can just move on to the next tier with all your tickets. So what's the point in grinding the Battle Pass if you got all the skins, you may ask? Well, there's a kill effect waiting for you. As a matter of fact, it is indeed the same Scraps kill effect from Cold Construct 2021. Isn't that nice? But now let's get into the gameplay alterations. Disclaimer, I only fully completed Chapter 1 and died on the final wave of Chapter 2, so a lot may have been altered from 3 and 4, but I don't really know. Notably, Chapter 2 has this weird-ass red ore mission now for some reason. Oh, by the way, the reward for this is shit. Chapters 1 through 3, from what I can see, are mostly the same as in 2022. Chapter 4, on the other hand, is just evil now. Tough enemies such as purple ornaments spawn a whole lot earlier now. Enemies are spammed more, especially the hard ones. The first combustor has an HP increase of 50k shield and 50k HP, the second one having 55k HP and 50k shield. Mechanical Arbiter has an HP increase. Wave 23 is still really hard, but the real kicker comes from Glacius having 1 million HP now, along with the ability to not only be able to kill towers, but also Bliss of Finality. Also, I like what the new ability is called, Blissful Annihilation, a play on Bliss of Finality itself, but also a previous big update, nicknamed Blissful Revelations. ISC Ruins was also originally named Blissful Annihilation, so that's cool. But the main thing to this new Chapter 4 is that the Chapter 4 effect is gone, baby! Since the devs used that time to optimize Chapter 4, no more 10 FPS on the final waves anymore. Yeah, that rhymes. But what do I think about this? I mean, seeing I just made an hour, 30 minutes video on this topic, and I'm kind of mixed on the idea of bringing it back, mainly in spring. I think the devs wanted to make this kind of like Battle Cats' Heavenly Tower, an event where you scale a tower and complete the floors in a set period of time. But at that point you can ask, why is it permanent? Tower Blitz's IST maps are permanent, but the content there isn't that much, just formats returning. I don't know, it just doesn't feel as a quote-unquote special appearance. Does this harm my overall thoughts on this event as a whole? Nah, I don't think so. At least this way everyone, including you, the viewer, can try this out. If you're willing to play this whole event, tell me what you think about it. Oh yeah, also if you're an OG, you get an Avian Assassin skin for Surveyor, so that's pretty cool. But anyways, this video has been over an hour and a half long, so let's wrap this up. What a strange trip it's been, going from zero to hero. It had lore, thrills, cancer, you name it. If I would rank this experience, I would rank it probably an S tier as far as Tower Defense event goes anyways. Sure, it's got some issues, but by God, compared to other events, this one sticks out to me the most. It may not be my favorite event from any Tower Defense game, but it is darn close and I will remember participating in it for years. My bus seems to be arriving. Time to go home now. I've been Rec1, and thanks for watching. Hello everybody, and thank you for watching my video. So this video has took like about 4 to 5 months to make, which is a long time. And yeah, special thanks to these guys who use music on in this video. All their music will be on screen right now. So, and again, thank you guys for watching this video. It was really ambitious, really long time to make. And I don't know. I'm not really. I'm not. How do I say this? I'm not. I don't think this video is perfect. Of course, like the sprites, they could be better. Like the thumbnail could be better. Everything about it could be better. Which leads to me asking, what do you guys think I can improve? Maybe like the jokes, maybe the editing style, maybe the script. Who knows? Who knows? If you want to give some feedback on this video, leave it in the comment section below. And anyways, that'll be it for me. Thank you so much for watching this ambitious project that took forever to make. And I'll see you guys for whatever I make next. Bye everyone.